Story 1. Feeling like a trophy to be won rather than a whole human being with actual feelings and desires. There is more attention, but definitely not better quality. Story 2. When you are attractive and an introvert, people think you are aloof and stuck up. I swear being an introvert is a curse. Story 3. People think you have it made without realizing that there is more to life than being very good looking. Story 4. In professional settings, not being taken seriously. When you are taken seriously, people think it is only because you are attractive. There are constant undertones of sexual harassment and uncertainty about whether your work colleague is trying to pursue a relationship with you. Additionally, you may get in trouble for your attire even when others are wearing the same thing. Story 5. If you let it become your personality, it will slowly drain your soul. There is always going to be someone more attractive. There will be days when you just do not have it. You are playing a game that is impossible to win. I guess this is why people choose plastic surgery, chasing an ideal look that never seems to satisfy. Story 6. People often assume that any social difficulty is due to ego or that you are just a stuck-up person. Sir, I have autism. I would love to join the party chat, but so many people are talking at once that I cannot think clearly about the right things to say that fit with everything. Story 7. Be a confident woman and see how that job interview goes. You may be hired by men and rejected by women. Story 8. An attractive woman receives a lot of unwanted attention. I knew someone who had been constantly harassed in public. Story 9. People usually think that's all you have, especially if you are a woman. Everyone wants to humble you and will do just about anything to do that. This attracts many predatory people, fake friends, and fake romance. Someone once told me they had to give me a hard time because everyone else bends for me, which has never been true. I am actually easy to get along with and happen to be a decent human being. There is unwarranted jealousy and competition. Story 10. It's hard to keep my male friends because most of them try to date me at some point, and then they stop responding when I turn them down. I know it's painful to be rejected by your crush, but it is also painful to lose someone I value as a friend because of their feelings. The amount of casual infidelity that comes my way is disturbing. I notice many men who are with their wives and families staring at me. When I worked in retail, a man approached me, telling me how beautiful I was. He said he needed to wait for his wife to go to the car before he could speak to me. It made me feel uncomfortable and guilty, even though it was not my fault. Some people do not take my problems seriously because they think mental health issues or insecurities do not matter. They say, "You are attractive, that is all that matters." As if my appearance could cure my struggles. Story 11. You can never be sure if people genuinely like you or not. If you are unattractive and people like you, you know that is real. Story 12. I am a flight nurse. People I work with say the hospital staff we drop patients off to are only nice to me because I am an attractive male and the nurses think I am cute. Not because I work hard and provide high-quality patient care, which I take pride in. Story 13. I grew up unattractive, and apparently as an adult, I experienced a second puberty because now I get a lot of male attention. I have never had a romantic relationship, but I cannot seem to have one because men just look at me as a sexual object rather than a person. I was already lonely because I felt ugly, but now I am lonely because I feel like a piece of meat. Story 14. Honestly, you will be disliked more as an attractive man, often in very annoying ways. The truth is, if you are attractive, any insecure man will try to put you down when you are around. Where I live, this behavior is very common among men. This type of crab bucket mentality is very strong, and if you are a good-looking man, you will be relentlessly criticized by random older men or insecure men around your age who need to make themselves feel better. Story 15. It should not matter with people you know and trust, but it is harder to read a stranger's motives when they try to interact with you. Story 16. I used to be invisible for the most part. I was never ugly but not that attractive. All that changed once I got a little older, took care of myself, found my style, learned basic makeup, and moved to a more diverse city. I think the downside for me is that I can't help but notice stares and glances. I think a lot of attractive people learn to tune it out or not care, but I haven't quite gotten there yet. It just makes me feel weird and on edge. Am I model level hot? Not at all. But every single day, there are men smiling at me, staring at me, turning their necks. On days when I feel stressed, it is just too much. I don't want to be perceived or looked at all. But it happens and you can't control it. I can't even imagine what truly exceptionally attractive people deal with. Story 17. Not being taken seriously or people thinking you are unintelligent because you cannot possibly be attractive and intelligent. Story 18. People assume you are put together and have it easy, taking experiences for granted. Also, my girlfriend in particular hates it when people flirt with me while she is right there. I put a stop to it quickly, but it still happens. Story 19. The main issue for me as a woman is jealous and insecure friends. Most friendships I've had involve the girl secretly hating me, which always came out through hateful comments about my appearance, attempts to embarrass me in front of others, or just their expressions when other people call me beautiful or compliment me. It has always made me uncomfortable and feel the need to make myself look less attractive around them to avoid triggering their insecurities. I have become very hyper-aware of it over time, so I tend to keep to myself. I would not consider the excessive male attention a downside because I do not really pay attention to it anymore and often use it to my advantage. Also, as someone with social anxiety, it is difficult because people genuinely stare at you whenever you are out in public. Story 20. You become hyper-aware of how people look at you. Many people you like meet, as if you shouldn't be alone in a room with them. A lot of insecure women treat you as a threat, even if you would never want their unpleasant partner. It is worse if you are naturally friendly. People act like that is an invitation for sex, when you are just being kind. There is always another person who wants to use you. You get rid of one and here comes another. I have been raped early on in dating. I have been raped in my sleep by friends. Some men have masturbated to my voice on phone calls, both in dating and at my old job. I have a child because an ex tampered with my birth control to trap me. I have had several stalkers. I have been begged that if I do not date someone, they will harm themselves. Additionally, people you do not even want will get high off the idea of rejecting you. It is all very difficult. Honestly, it is harder to think of positives. Story 21. People will not actually appreciate your talent. They will believe you are just good looking and that is your secret for success. Story 22. I'm not very attractive, but everyone assumes I was hired because of my looks and treats me like a little girl. I am a 32-year-old project manager who has worked for the company for years, but people still often talk to me like a secretary on my second day, while my male and less attractive female coworkers receive much more respect and recognition. I used to think this was about my skills, but that changed when we employed a very attractive woman. She had the same experience as I did, but times 10. I was aware of how people talked about her. Her secret nickname was Sexy Steph, and the number of inappropriate comments made about her and her work behind her back was ridiculous. She did not last long, and I am not surprised. Story 23. Being introverted, socially awkward, and socially anxious. I gained 70 pounds in my early to mid-20s due to depression. It was a relief to be basically invisible. Now I am a fit nearly 50-year-old and have not bothered dating in over 20 years. Peace and quiet suits me. Turns out it was undiagnosed autism all along. Story 24. I was never beautiful, but I guess I was reasonably pretty in my younger years and faced my share of harassment. I did get hit on a lot, mostly by people I was not interested in, and they would get angry if turned down even when I tried to do it politely. I learned not to do it politely. Story 25. One of my exes was a solid 10 out of 10. Absolutely stunning. Looks-wise, way out of my league. She had guys throw themselves at her daily. For example, she would be in a coffee shop, and some guy would approach her and offer to take her on an expensive vacation. After it was over, she went on a date with a National Hockey League player, Maxime Lapierre. She was that attractive. When people throw themselves at you, any rough patch or boredom meant you could just get another guy. She didn't have to adapt or change to any circumstance because there was always someone to suit her mood. I later realized she was tired of all the aggressive player-type guys after her and wanted something chill, boring, and safe, which I was. My ideal time was to sit at home watching Mystery Science Theater and telling silly jokes. We would spend about 5 hours at a time talking on the phone for no reason multiple times a week. She was a bit nerdy and actually enjoyed my company for that time. I think that was the part of her personality that didn't get shown often. But eventually, she got bored, met another guy, and I was out of the picture within a few months. We weren't too invested, so I wasn't heartbroken or anything like that. We later got engaged to different people and coincidentally broke up with our respective fiancés the same weekend years later. We both kind of thought it was some sort of act of fate. I went to visit her, but I had changed. I wasn't the young guy blinded by looks anymore. She did not change. She just viewed me as some backup option. She liked our time together and knew I had a great job, was loyal, and had a similar sense of humor. So she thought, what a great fallback option. But I had acquired some self-worth, confidence, and insight into people's motivations and understood how she viewed me. So I did not pursue it beyond that weekend. She got married a few years later, got divorced, and randomly contacted me about 6 years later. I knew her pattern and immediately talked about how my child was doing and how I was looking forward to my other child being born in a few months. She got the hint that I was not available and never would be. She was a smart, quirky girl. I firmly believe that if she had been rated 6 or 7 out of 10, her life would have been much better. Honestly, I wish she had been a guy so we could have just hung out as best friends. But her personality didn't match the type of guys who pursued her. She never learned to adapt to hardships or people, and she never grew as a person in terms of relationships. People ask if I ever get mad at her. No, I just feel sorry for her. She's now a divorced single mom in her 40s who has to deal with fading looks. I firmly believe it's never too late to learn and grow. I hope she is growing into the person she wants to be and that her looks no longer hold her back. I have not spoken with her in 10 years, but I wish her the best. Story 26. They always judge you for how attractive you are, but I thought you were taller, had a different voice, and were cooler. Story 27. I am not sure if other women will agree, but I definitely found this. I would say I noticed I was pretty for my age, especially when I hung around with older people. It always seemed like people expected me to be more sexually experienced than my peers. They expected me to have done things and been sexual with others. They would say, "But you are so hot, of course you have." When I would say I had not done anything, it made me quite uncomfortable. Because I was attractive, I was instantly expected to be sexually experienced and adventurous. I am unsure if there is a correlation or if it is just teenage boys. Story 28. Phew. The downsides of being attractive are nowhere near as bad as the downsides of being unattractive. Not even close. Story 29. You make a bunch of unreliable friends and cannot tell who the real ones are until you shave your head. Story 30. In my industry, popular people are treated more like a commodity. People do not really take them seriously, and whenever they speak, everyone responds by saying, "Ah, that is cute. So pretty." Story 31. People feel intimidated by you and assume you have a partner, so no one ever approaches you. You end up single forever. Sigh. Story 32. I have been sexually harassed everywhere I go. Boys have taken pictures of me without my consent throughout my life. They then show me what they say about me in group chats because they think it will flatter me. In 7th grade, boys came up to me and told me how great my chest would look in a push-up bra and lingerie. Boys pretended to help me in computer class just to grope me from behind. I have millions of stories, and I am only 29. People heavily underestimate how disgusting boys can be. Story 33. Some people dislike you because of it. I have also experienced sexual assault before, and that was very difficult. Most people assume that your life is somehow easier because of it, but in reality, we all face similar struggles in life. Story 34. For a couple of years in my life, I worked out quite frequently. It was odd. I received more attention but also felt I wasn't actually being seen. Story 35. If you become attractive later in life, you are not used to it. The attention becomes addictive, and the need for the validation you once did not have but now do becomes destructive. Story 36. Formerly an attractive man, I did not like the attention personally. Getting my butt slapped or unsolicited hugs from near strangers felt uncomfortable. Luckily, now I am chubby and balding before age 30, so I am less often the type people are attracted to, and that has helped me avoid unwanted touching. Story 37. Great people do not approach you because they know you are out of their league. As a consequence, those who have the courage to do so are usually unpleasant individuals. Story 38. People are entitled to date you but become extremely upset when you reject them. I am not attractive, but unfortunately, I see this happen way too many times with attractive people. They are human beings, not trophies. Story 39. Personally, I feel nervous being around men, including bosses and friends. In my experience, they always try to make a move. Story 40. As a woman, men often stare but never approach, thinking you are taken. Women may dislike you because they believe you are full of yourself. Friends sometimes compete with you or secretly celebrate your misfortunes. Can be a lonely life. Story 41. People assume that you cannot have any problems and get the world handed to you, based on secondhand knowledge from friends. Story 42. Jealousy from mean relatives and friends. Everyone knows the benefits of being attractive. You will receive a lot of attention and kindness, but no one talks about the hate it brings, especially when it comes from relatives and close friends. Those scars last longer. Story 43. People judging you harshly or thinking that they are entitled to your time. I have been told that I look stuck up, unfriendly, intimidating, and so many other things that I have lost count. What really bothers me is when I thought we were friends and it turns out they just want to have sex. Then it is, you are not even that attractive or something similar. Catcalling is also very upsetting. I am just trying to exist and go grocery shopping. Story 44. A lot of women I date assume I have a roster or a side relationship. So they decide to cheat on me because, as their own words, no way you don't have multiple girls at your house when I'm not there. And I would ask, why? I'm content with one partner. Because you're too attractive, I don't believe you. Or they'll say, I just know tons of girls approach you. In reality, only one girl ever approached me, and that was 15 years ago. I genuinely just want one relationship. I don't want a side thing. Story 45. Stories from my female friends. From the perspective of a chief executive officer woman in technology. Absolutely no one takes your recommendations seriously. Your male colleagues question your directives and go over your head frequently. From the perspective of a doctor, absolutely no one takes your recommendations seriously. Patients call you Dr. Barbie in a condescending way. This was before the movie when it became empowering to be called Barbie. From the perspective of a teacher, it is the best. Kids are much nicer to you, and you do not have to work as hard to get them to trust you or follow your instructions. Adults, however, still do not take your recommendations seriously. Story 46. Always carry a stick to fend off a swarm of women. I learned this from a high karate commercial. Story 47. The expectation that just because a woman finds you attractive and you find her attractive, you should be hitting on her is incorrect. I am not hitting on every woman who might have sex with me. I have many life problems that consume my day-to-day. I am just trying to get through the week. Story 48. As a conventionally attractive woman, making friends can be difficult. Men see me as either a romantic prospect or an object. Women assume I am unkind or treat me poorly because of their own insecurity. The sexual harassment is relentless. I have been catcalled by men while walking since I was a child. I have been honked at, groped, and stared at simply for existing. I am not allowed to have low self-esteem, but I am also not allowed to be confident. As a pretty, blonde, white, thin-bodied woman, people show no compassion for the fact that I also struggle with body image and insecurities, as if I have never experienced my own trauma. Yet if I acknowledge my beauty, I am chastised for it. Other people's projections are forced on me. Because I am pretty, I must also be dumb, conceited, and shallow. Story 49. I wasn't the prettiest girl growing up, so maturing has been a delightful treat. Consequently, I've been on both sides of this spectrum. My upbringing made me kind, understanding, and inclusive almost to a fault. I'd hate for someone to feel excluded or like they don't belong. It's just awful. So I choose to be kind, friendly, and respectful. Now, it gets taken advantage of all the time. Although I appreciate the newfound admiration, I lost all bodily autonomy. People just come up to you and touch you or grab you. I can't listen to music with both headphones in because people sneak up on you and startle you. I try not to be rude since it's impossible to ignore them, especially when they're so persistent. You're kind of pressured into conversations. The worst is when men assume that I'm underage but still come up to me and start the conversation by asking how old I am, then proceed to flirt and ask me out without even introducing themselves. Like, no, I don't even know you. When you have friends, you completely alienate yourself by complaining about it to them. I can't get too close to girls because they view you as competition. I can't get too close to guys because they just want to sleep with you. Not saying it's a bad thing, but it is discouraging to know that people only want to talk to you to get something from you. You never know who's genuinely interested in you as the person you are underneath the surface. I just want to belong. Story 50. People assume you have sex a lot or that it is somehow an accomplishment. You usually get admired and judged for your looks before other qualities that define who you are. Story 51. My face is conventionally attractive, but I am far from a conventional person. People, mostly men, make many incorrect assumptions about me based on my face. I would rather be left alone. Story 52. I do not want to be one of those men's rights activists, but older women can be creepy, especially at work. Story 53. If you ever want to truly see the difference between being a man and a woman, these comments are very telling. Women, rape, harassment, and so on. Most men, people hate me because I am beautiful. Story 54. For some people, specifically men, they are not considered attractive until much later in life. Once you get older or middle-aged, you start receiving compliments. You may not know how to respond because nobody complimented you as a young man, so you are not experienced with how to handle it. You might try to change the topic or say a joke to divert the conversation. Story 55. Just 2 minutes ago, I was sitting at my terminal at the airport when I saw a man raise his phone toward me, trying to play it off as if he was doing something else. His camera shutter went off very loudly. We locked eyes for a very uncomfortable second before he looked away. I am sharing this because the timing was right. I do not think it is a huge deal, but it sure is uncomfortable. Another situation I do not like is when I receive special treatment frequently. It is not really a problem for me until other people are involved, and they are being treated poorly while I come out on top for no reason. It makes me livid. Story 56. When I was in my mid-20s, I briefly dated a bikini model. No idea how I pulled it off, but I did. Every 15 minutes, she would get a text or a phone call from an ex, the guy who made her coffee that morning, a random guy she met at a party months ago, someone she knew from school years ago, an online stalker, a random coworker, or any guy who had her phone number or email address. I think it would be exhausting to get that much attention all the time. Literally every time she was in a public place, guys would stare at her and approach her. She went to a pool party and ended up leaving me for some guy she met there. I'm not upset because I feel lucky just to have had the opportunity to date her. But I don't think I could ever seriously date her. I'm not sure I would be secure enough. Story 57. I'm not sure about being attractive, but I try to make an effort to look my best. I have been accused of being vain or wasteful with money. I buy from thrift shops and estate sales, especially on the last day for the best prices, and then modify clothing as needed to suit me better and make me look more put together. For things I cannot buy secondhand, I use coupons and research for the best deals. Occasionally, I do some do-it-yourself projects to achieve the results I want. For example, my $1 pearl earrings match the pearl choker I made with beads and findings I bought at a Joann's closing sale. Story 58. People, especially men, only see you for your looks. They date you and are nice to you. Everyone jokes around, thinking they're flirting, when you could easily be paying for your groceries. It's not like you can turn off your looks, so you never know where you stand with people. Also, if you are friends with someone, they'll randomly tell you they're in love with you out of nowhere. You try to be respectful, but somehow it's your fault. Older men are the worst. looking at your breast and your butt. It can be flattering with someone you feel the same about, but advances from everyone can cause anxiety. You just want to fix your life and get from point A to point B. Men are relentless, to say the least. Kindness and admiration are always appreciated. But let it be kindness. People wanting things in exchange for attention is not how the world works. Story 59. I work with an attractive woman, and whenever she is kind to people, which is required for her job, men around her age think she is flirting with them. Story 60. I have an attractive male friend, and from what I have seen in person and heard in stories, it seems like it can be difficult. He has had numerous uncomfortable situations in public with girls approaching him and randomly kissing him or accidentally bumping into him just to touch him. As an introverted person, he says it all makes him very uncomfortable, and he tries to avoid eye contact with women as a result. Story 61. Everyone thinking you are a nice, polite person is flirtation. No one values who you are and sexualizes every single thing you do. Story 62. I had some people at the gym think I was a lesbian because I went to work out and paid them no attention. I am not here for you. Sorry if that hurt your ego. Story 63. 1. Harassment can happen to anyone but occurs much more often to attractive people, especially women. Jealous partners. Many people assume there is nothing else interesting or impressive about you and that you have spent your whole life coasting on good looks. People assume it is just something you are born with and not a skill or effort, which is very untrue for me. I work hard to look the way I do. Story 64. Having men and women project onto me because of insecurities and baseless assumptions. I am not gay, and I am not flirting. I just want to be included and have no ulterior motives. That is okay, though. I am better off alone. Story 65. A higher percentage of people staring at you can trigger anxiety, especially if you are a little insecure. Story 66. People are not actually listening. I also have a deep, soothing voice, so I am never really part of the conversation, just there as a +1. Story 67. I am a model. The free items people give you are not actually free. There is an implication of now I am owed something. It is so degrading because whatever the item was is what they think your body is worth. Not to mention I am autistic, so I often find myself in really awkward situations with male authority figures due to my obliviousness. Story 68. Being used by others for your appearance without anyone truly wanting to get to know you. Also, judgment from other women when it is unwarranted. Story 69. Some women cannot understand that you do not want to sleep with them and will either be upset or say that you are probably homosexual. Some homosexual people will also tease you nonstop. Story 70. Worrying that the person you are dating is only interested in your physical appearance. The fear that they will lose interest if your appearance changes, such as during pregnancy or serious illness. Story 71. I think things come more easily to attractive people, and when they do not get what they want, they are not pleasant to be around. Story 72. Not being approached because people assume you are not interested, and the people who do approach you have unrealistic expectations about their chances of getting a date or forming a relationship. Story 73. I got yelled at because I did not go home with a man after our first date. I actually liked him. I just did not want to sleep with him right away. Story 74. The creeps and stalkers. People have tried to follow me home many times. Also, other women being mean because they assume you are a threat when you just want to be friends. Story 75. When your kindness is mistaken for flirting. I'm not some drop-dead beauty, but I'm kind of cute, as my boyfriend tells me. At my work, sometimes customers request that we text them letting them know their orders are ready to pick up. I text this customer, T, letting him know there are things here to pick up. He says okay and that he would send someone. The person comes and picks up the items. Then T messages me requesting additional charging cables. Here's exactly how the conversation went. Me, do you have a length preference for those USB chargers? T, no idea. What are my options? Me, 3 feet, 6 feet, 10 feet. T, these are going in UTVs, so we will probably need shorter ones so they won't get pulled out. Me, 3 feet should suffice unless you want the 6 feet ones just in case. T. What are the price differences? Personally, I'm a big guy and like the flexibility of the larger cables. You can move and touch places most can't when you need to instead of unplugging randomly. Me. Tells him the price of each without making any reference to his off-centered comment. T. Let's go with the 6 feet ones. T. Sorry for my joke. I'm not funny. Me. Your chargers are expected to be here Friday. T. Awesome. Thank you, boss lady. Fast forward. Chargers come in. I text him letting him know they're here. He comes to get them and verbally orders some more stuff. Fast forward another week. He texts me about adding some stuff to his order, following with, "If that's okay, princess." I simply say, "Okay." I added the stuff. When the stuff for the last order came in, I text him to let him know. He said okay, then says, "I'm going to have to be careful with the teasing because you are fun to talk and text to." My reply was, "Yes, business only here." Not one time have I ever said or done anything off-putting to this man, but he still will jab. At one point he called me because I didn't reply quickly and went on to say he was sorry if he'd upset me, and that he didn't mean anything by it, that he was happily married and loved his wife dearly. I told him I just wasn't trying to tangle up customers and outside relationships and ended the call. My boyfriend, my coworkers. And I laugh at the interactions because the dude seems nothing more than a sleaze who works out of town often and tries to get one over on his wife. Story 76. I am 6 feet 7 inches tall, and people think it makes me look good, but I am just autistic and easy to break. I have trust issues that affect me because of it. Please stop bullying lonely tall people in real life. We cannot handle it any better than you can. Story 77. Surprised I do not see this yet. Questioning new friendships with the opposite gender because you do not know if they are actually being nice or if they just think you are attractive and hope their gifts and kind gestures will make you want to sleep with them. Story 78. People use you. If everyone is attracted to you, they will try to take as much from you as possible. It is your responsibility to set limits and ask for equal effort in return. Especially in terms of looks, many people will only want to have sex and then leave. Finding true love with someone who is not just trying to take advantage of you can be difficult. To make it worse, many of those individuals are arrogant and indifferent, so they will continue to abuse you endlessly. Story 79. Not being able to be left alone. Go have a drink, walk in the park, or sit on the beach. Also, addressing other people's points. Thinking you cannot be sad, unhappy, or have issues of your own. Story 80. Too many insincere friends who do not genuinely care about you as a person. They disappear once you reach a certain age or gain a little weight. Story 81. You would not believe how many times people assumed I was shallow, arrogant, or stupid. They would call me fake when I was friendly and mean if I was not. I could be saying the exact same things as everyone else, and they would assume I had bad intentions. Story 82. From a friend of mine who won the genetic lottery. She had to deal with a few stalkers. Unwelcome advances were common, and she had to go through many unsuitable men before she finally found the right partner. Story 83. Woman thinking you're always flirting with them when you're being nice. Being told you look like a player. It is difficult to make female friends without them thinking you just want to sleep with them. Story 84. People want to date you, but they want to fill in your personality. They try to create their ideal image with good looks and an ideal personality for themselves. Then they get mad when you are not acting how they want you to act. If the other person is controlling, they will try to pre-plan your life together to fit exactly what they want. There is also a good chance they will love bomb you. People act like they deserve someone attractive and will twist the rest of the world to get that person. Often it feels like no one likes your personality because they date for your looks, but break up with you when your personality does not match what they want. Story 85. See the movie Nashville, 1975, and the character Tom. Tom is a devastatingly attractive folk singer that every woman swoons over. He can effortlessly have any of them, but their non-stop adoration of his looks and music leaves him feeling empty, as if he doesn't know whether they truly love him as a person. They all start to blur together. He is looking for a special one but cannot find her. Despite how easily he can get women, he still feels far from knowing what love feels like. Story 86. People may talk to you as if you are unintelligent, but honestly, it helps identify individuals who will never treat you with respect. Story 87. The truth is that for most attractive people, being good-looking is a choice. This choice is often made out of insecurity or body image issues. That is why many beautiful people struggle with relationships. Only a very small number of people are so beautiful that they look attractive in plain clothes without styling or makeup. Most people look okay and can be very attractive if they make an effort to enhance their appearance. Some choose to do this and some do not. Story 88. As a woman, people often perceive you as less intelligent. Past partners also became jealous or upset when men asked for my number or looked at me, even though those men were rejected. Story 89. People with low self-esteem assume you are out of their league and negate you or bring up your flaws so they appear more equal in social value. Story 90. When you are attractive and have a good vibe, people often assume you are flirting, even when you are just being nice. Story 91. Well, people usually assume my life has been smooth sailing because of my good looks, but it could not be more wrong. I am a mess. Story 92. Someone else's problems and insecurities do become your problems, and that is why being unattractive or very attractive can become a problem. It is not because of how you look, but because of people's reactions to it. To say it is their problem and not yours is not really correct, because their problem becomes your problem too. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.